Mr. Dennis.
Hi, Hi, thank you, and I'm very pleased to be here. I'm going to give Bob just a second to see if he can pull up the PowerPoint presentation. It's much of the presentation, as you are aware, is visual. Great. So, I'll wait for the first slide to show, but the emphasis of the presentation is what happens when industry voluntarily complies to a flawed standard. And I think this is exactly what's happening with ionization smoke alarms. I want you to meet my family. We were a family of 4. This is my firstborn, Andrea. Secondborn, Allie. These are my girls growing up together. Here they are as young ladies. This is the date, April 13th, we lose Andrea. Happened to be 4 o'clock in the morning on a Palm Sunday. 2 years later, 4 o'clock in the morning on a Palm Sunday at Miami University, there was another fire. 3 more students died. The commonality between the 2 fires, 8 students died, more than 20 ionization smoke alarms were so-called protecting the house. However, they weren't really protecting the house. I didn't learn this 2 years later when I started researching smoke alarm technology. Now I'm going to fast forward. As you know, I submitted a lengthy PowerPoint, and I did so you had a lot of information. So I'm going to kind of go quickly to the gist of the presentation. That's the performance of ionization smoke alarms. They're flawed. Simply put, there's a standard by UL that allows them to pass the smoldering test, and that standard, that test has been around for over 40 years. And what they do is they smolder ponderosa pine sticks on a hot plate at 715 degrees, slowly crank up the temperature. The alarms are given 70 minutes to sound before a smoke obscuration level of 10%. They actually had to change the wood from Douglas to ponderosa pine because years ago they had trouble getting the ponderosa pine to pass the test. Now, this has been controversial for 40 years. Since the 80s, the California fire chiefs did their own testing and only trusted photoelectric smoke alarms. Texas A&M, University of Colorado for 2.5 years did testing. They didn't use hot plates roasting ponderosa pine sticks. They used actual furniture and cushions and started smoldering fires. You have all this before you, but I'm going to quickly show you a chart. Ionizations failed over nearly 60% of the time in smoldering tests, 60% of the time. These are on our homes. NIST has done testing on smoke alarms. Here's the 2 technologies, very little difference in the flaming test. However, when you get into the smoldering test, suddenly you're seeing several tens of minutes of response time. This test NIST did, I want you to concentrate on the bottom, the smoldering test. 2-story house, smoldering fire, downstairs, could be in your furniture. Smoke alarms placed outside the common living areas, outside of the bedroom. ASCT means available safe egress time. So when the alarm goes off, how much time does the family have to get out of that house? With the photoelectric, 55 minutes. The ionization passes because it gave 16 seconds, and that was within a 3-minute escape time. However, if the living room air conditioning was running, the photoelectric time drops all the way down to 46 minutes. However, you get a negative 54 seconds with an ionization smoke alarm. That's the problem. It's the physics of the technology, and the people that work on these and understand them know that, but for decades nothing's been done. NIST issued a statement to the Boston City Council when they were looking at Massachusetts passing a statute statewide. And for 20 years, the Boston Fire Department only would pass out photoelectric smoke alarms because they didn't trust ionization technology. The state of Massachusetts is the test case of how the difference between ionization and photoelectric technology. Their statement's very clear. Ionization technology has been shown to fail, and smoldering fires, even in a room, is filled with visibility. and they're 30 minutes sounding later on the average than photoelectric smoke alarms. Here's the NIST test. As you can see, this is from questions clarifying, NIST is clarifying the Underwriter Lab test that they used to prove the smoke alarms. It was developed in the late 70s to mimic the smoldering mattress and furniture. However, they're using ponderosa pine sticks. Furniture is made up of cushions and polyurethanes. How's that work in the real world? 2% of all fires account for 21% of all home fire deaths. To put that in perspective, annually, we have between 2,500 and 3,000 fire deaths. What number is 21% of that? You're getting 500 needless fire deaths a year. A lot of children are dying in their rooms. A lot of parents are dying. They have no idea these things are defective, and it's a flawed standard. Here's a white paper report. It's Public-Private Council. You serve on that. Underwriter Laboratory serves on that. NFPA serves on that. They acknowledge that against the fires that have an extended smoldering period, there could be the ionization smoke alarms defeated anywhere from 3 to 25% of the total. What's the total? The total is our fire deaths. So now we're talking about anywhere between 90 and 600 or 700 people. Here's the smoke characterization project. UL decided not to smolder ponderosa pine sticks, but actually bring in cushions, polyurethanes, and test them in their labs. Guess what? 100% failure on the part of ionization smoke alarms in that test. What should be even more alarming to you is in 1 out of every 5 tests using the ponderosa pine sticks, the ionization alarms still failed. Yet that is the singular test that they use in a large room to put their seal of approval on ionization smoke alarm. Public has no idea. They go to the stores. They want these for their kids' rooms. They buy them, and they're in the blind. After death, people are dying. Law firms are on the bandwagon advertising, stating that the manufacturers know the ionization smoke alarm has a history of failure and defect. What's going on behind the scenes? Settlement after settlement after settlement is being settled out of court. But yet they're still not labeled. It's a little bit of irony that I'm here in Maryland because your largest city is Baltimore. And the gentleman next to me is from Massachusetts. His largest city is Boston. As I mentioned earlier, Boston has had a culture of photoelectric smoke alarm technology because they found the defects of ionization smoke alarm. Baltimore is in the dark because the statutes in Maryland, a smoke alarm is just a smoke alarm, and the most important thing is to make sure it's operational and there's a battery in it. How does this play out in the real world? Here's a period between 2009 and 2012. Baltimore had 75 residential fire deaths. You've already seen the number that Boston had that same time period, 4. That's the problem with ionization smoke alarms. Industry is complying to a voluntary standard, but that voluntary standard is deadly flawed. Warning labels need to be put on these things. If you don't, ban them and recall them, which I personally think you should do. They have no business in the marketplace. There's photoelectric smoke alarms for a couple dollars more. They have adequate protection across the full spectrum of fires. Ionizations are only effective in the flaming stages of fires if they're not disabled, and they do get disabled 5 times higher than photoelectric smoke alarms, once again, because of the physics of the technology. I know definitively that one of your top researchers here in the Consumer Product Safety Commission, Arthur Lee, has grave concerns, and I've seen letters shared that he's written to underwriter laboratories about their standards. I think it's time that these things get a solid review by the Consumer Product Safety Committee. You place them on your hazard list at minimum. I actually think you ought to recall them. Thank you very much.